Bit of a change of scenery today. Instead of being in the office, we're at Coventry City's training ground. In a minute, I'm going to meet with Frank Lampard. What I'm really trying to understand is here what are the parallels between building high-performing sports teams and high-performing businesses, whether they're sales teams, recruiting teams. Trying to understand how they go about identifying talent, how they look at data to understand what talent is in the market, whether that's internal or external, and then trying to build and nurture and bring players through. And so make sure that we can build ourselves for a sustainable attack on whether that's a season or a sales target year. So look forward to the session. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks for joining us, Frank. Really appreciate you making the time. Coventry City fan, sponsor the club. So this is a great personal moment for me. I really want to get into the amazing season that we had in retrospect last year, 17th to 5th, although it didn't necessarily end exactly as we wanted to. How are your focuses now going on pre-season?
Yeah, it's a good question because we have the big disappointment of how the season ended. We competed and played very well and we'd come from 17th, as you said. So I think your job really is to kind of get over that. The break gives you a bit of time to do that. You know, this is football, year on year, you have successes, highs, lows, etc. You get used to that. I've been in it a long time, but they still hurt. The thing to be is robust and go, okay, let's go again. You look at all the things that we can do better. That's my job as a coach, to really focus on that in terms of really analysing every part of what happened last year, for good and for bad. And then you get practical. It's like, okay, how do we put that into action next season? So that's when the club has to be aligned between top to bottom in terms of how we want to go forward. And I think we are. So that's the important thing now. How can we go again?
Yeah, it's an exciting time. Rewinding a little bit then to when you did come in, obviously you've got to quickly assess what we've got, what you need. You've got a difficult transfer window. How do you go about at that point, mid-season, coming in, assessing what your needs are and looking at your principles and how you install those in the players?
Yeah, well, I've done it twice now coming in mid-season. I came into Everton mid-season. And I think what I learned at Everton and I tried to implement at Coventry was the first thing is people and communication, and try and analyse what are the, where's the energy levels of the building, where's the confidence in the building. You know, this for me was a squad with talent in it, but the reality is we were where we were at the time. So I think those things are the first things to hit, build relationships with people, try and help them and support them off the pitch and on the pitch, because it transfers. And then for me, absolutely the biggest thing when you come in mid-season is clarity. It's not complicating a message. It's understanding from our part as coaches what's the important thing that needs to improve. So we try to prioritise, be really clear about how we wanted to do it, and then you work on the training pitch. So we tried to do that. I was lucky, we were lucky as staff, because we found very quickly we had a really good group of players. So they were very receptive. So as much as we can maybe take credit or whatever, absolutely the players can take a lot of credit, and staff, because change is scary. But we tried to come in and everybody jumped on board, and obviously we improved.
Obviously we only made the one signing, but what a signing in January. I mean, that was a stroke of genius. And I'm really interested, obviously, from my background in recruitment and also technology, how we now identify talent. And specifically, I'm thinking about the use of data analytics platforms. Remember the Opta stats, we all have a bit of XG. But really, what type of systems, what data is available to you now and to the coaches? Because probably to some extent gone are the days of sending the scouts out, reporting back and hearing about gems. You probably got this data ahead of you.
That still happens a bit, but there's a lot more to it. I think the first thing, to go back to the beginning, if you're talking Matt Grimes for us, is you have to be aligned from top to bottom in what do you want to be. So as a football team, it's like, what do we want to be? So when you look at that, you go, where are the specific positions that can help us to get better? Simple as that. And we pinpointed it as in terms of how we wanted to play and build possession. Matt Grimes would be fundamental to it. So with Grimes, I had an awareness of him. The club had an interest in him before me. So there was a lot of support for the idea of the move, and that's another important thing. You must all really want it, because it's not easy to take players from clubs when they're good players, because people don't want to let them go. And we always back up the oh, I know Matt Grimes is a good player, or oh, I like the look of him in one game that you see on a video, with data and analysis. And we're very big on it, that we will not sign really a player unless the eye and the data stack up. So I think once you put those things together, the last part is to find the person and what they're like. So that is pretty old school. You bring up people that have worked with him, because when you have a group, you want to sign the right people that are going to come in and not just improve you on the pitch, but off the pitch, and he's an absolute leader. I think recruitment can be something that is easily lauded, or you can celebrate when it all comes good, and then you can say it wasn't me when it's not good. I didn't decide to buy him. I could sit here and say that about players, or you can claim them. When it's a very much joined up process and you have these layers that sort of back up your idea, I think you get more confidence in what you're doing. And I think it's, and also we aren't a club that's in a position to pluck the best players from the Premier League, for instance. It doesn't happen. We have to find players. So the data is a huge help for that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a style of play and
Sure.
people like yourself that they'll be very much drawn to. When you're thinking about bringing in youth, though, you've probably got a lot less data to go on because of their playing careers, and it's probably more about potential. How do you do the identification of potential in younger players?
That's a good question. I have to say that from my point of view, I rely quite heavily on the scouting system and our recruitment team in that, because when you're a coach, your job is so engrossed here that it's very hard to, Matt Grimes is relatively easy, as I said, for me to analyse, but a younger player who's in the period of development, I've personally seen it both ways as a football coach. Young players, I go, I'm not sure that he's got the capacity to step up, and they've surprised me. I've seen players that you think they really, really do, and it goes in reverse. You get help here with people who are specifically looking at development players, so they're watching many, many games and understanding what that data looks like for a player where there is not so much, what really is important and what do we feel the uplift will be in the player. I see two things. I see the player and the talent, and I see the person and the attitude. Yep. And if you have one and without the other, you can maybe have a problem, or that maybe the ceiling is somewhere. If you have them both together, then you can strike gold. There's no trick, there's no surprises, nothing's given. Like when that comes together and these boys work, then I know then at that point that they can really, really go as far as they want to go.
Yeah, I had a great season last year, didn't he? So
Yeah,
we're all excited for this season. And obviously, whilst at Derby, Chelsea, now here you're bringing youth through. And any particular gems where you've given them that piece of advice, that bit of development, and you've just seen it click?
With players like that, I think as clear and as simple as you can be is the best. And I always go back to my time playing and think of the managers that gave me the best information. Generally, the easier and the better information is the simple stuff. And I think being positive, because when you know you've got good talent that is really engaged and you can be really positive with them because they want to get better. Like if you're ever critical, it's like you're trying to support them and help them. Even if it's something you're trying to improve, you go, you can do this. You just got to believe it. Those things click, and I go back to the same sort of players. It would be Rodoni making the box and arriving at the right time, which he can do amazingly. It could be Anthony Gordon, a great talent at Everton, and you go, why are you standing on the wing when the ball's on the other side? Because you can score 10 goals if you arrive in the box. And then they engage. Can we train that then, please, Gaffer? Do it. And those players, one of the most enjoyments you can get out of doing my job is seeing a young player who really does that while you're working with them, because I love it for them.
And in some cases, a little bit similar to yourself, not of good cross.
No, well, I don't know. I mean, I can't head the ball like Jack Rodoni. He can head it. I used to sort of close my eyes, some went in, but he can really head it. So working with midfield players is sort of closer to my heart in a way. My job is to work with everybody, but of course, you enjoy because you can, reflect on things that you did, and you can give them good insight. And I'm never sort of judgmental. Oh, I used to do this, you should do this. It's just my experiences before. The game's so fluid anyway. I can't say, well, 20 years ago I scored this goal where I did this. It's going to be different, but you can support. And obviously, being a midfield player, I can sometimes that comes closer to my heart, and I can probably give quite precise help in certain ways.
Well, we've got a long season ahead of us. I mean, Championship's a gruelling season. Add in Carabao, FA Cup, and obviously we've had a good few runs in those as well. How do you set the team up for that? Not just in terms of performance, but also in terms of mental strength, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a very good question, because some of that I can control, some of that I can't. Some of that is up to the group themselves, some of the players, and I'm pretty lucky here because the group's really good. They get on, They train, you ask them to do anything, they'll do it. You hear them laughing in the dressing room. Like, there's a really good spirit here. And then there are some times that you're a bit different where you feel that the energy's coming out of the group, and you either give it the nice push or you give it we need to sort this out. And I think some of the best managers, and with experience, I've worked under some, they find those moments at the right time.
Yeah, I want to come back to that in a moment. Just thinking about the performance levels, the transition between fitness and the Championship and the Premier League is leagues apart. And I think your words were, when I get my hands on them, I'm going to run them into the ground in pre-season, which I'm sure they'll react well to. But I mean, is that the case? Is that something we've got to really focus on this season for performance?
Yeah. The Championship is a very challenging league. The differences are so small in terms of getting a result or not getting a result. And as you build, if you analyse, you come back to data, which we are always considering, and you look at the teams that have come down from the Premier League, who retain generally quite a lot of their squad, they're fitter, more high intensity distance, all these things. And that's why they are the better teams. Now, there's so many other things to it, but as a base, fitness is huge. So I think we did good work there and the players took that on. And now the beauty of pre-season is we've got a chance to work now. So I have run them into the ground, sort of, not into the ground.
Not too much.
Yeah, not too much. But it's the time where you get robust for the season, and it's the building blocks of that. And we have to continue that, because I want us to be as fit as we possibly can. If we can be the fittest team, we have to be in and around it this season, at the top of the league. And then after that, everything else on top.
Yeah. Obviously, you've made reference to great people that you've played under. So I suppose it's a two-part question, if you don't mind. First of all, there's the switch from player to manager. There's a lot of people that move into managerials, not necessarily in football, and that's a change for them. You know, they may have been particularly strong at what they did, but then they've got a completely different perception that they've got to build and create. How did the game change for you, moving from player to manager? And then, because you've mentioned those greats, I wonder whether there's one particular bit of leadership that you saw as a player, either from another player or from a manager, that you've taken into your managerial career.
Well, we're lucky as footballers, as players, because we live this kind of ulterior world where, you know, we do the job that we love, we wanted to do when we were younger. Sometimes you can come in at 8 or 9 in the morning and be home by 2 o'clock. Like, it's a different world, it's not 9 to 5. I remember very vividly the first day I walked into Derby as a manager and I realised, oh no, now you're managing people rather than being the person, the selfish individual. You know, there's a good teammate, hopefully, but doing that. And I remember walking in and I remember getting asked questions from, you know, so many people, support staff around. I'm like, I don't know. And you get this sort of imposter syndrome a little bit, like, is this right, this moment? And even one thing on the training pitch with the players, I'm more comfortable with that. Giving meetings to the players, that was quite challenging because you're the other side of it. But all the things around it and managing people was a real eye-opener to me, because you realise if you don't get that bit right, it will affect the whole building and it'll affect the pitch. And I look back and I love it, and it's one of the things I still like about the job now. And you get things wrong, like, a lot. But in the beginning, you're scared of getting it wrong because it might make you look like a fool. But you do get a little bit stronger about year on year about, you know, that you've gone through those mistakes. In terms of the managers I work with, there are so many. I tend to try and take things from all of them in their own way. But there's one thing I could say, and it was Jose Mourinho that probably was the first and probably the strongest to show me it, was that he walked into Chelsea with such self-confidence and almost an arrogance in a good way. It was the biggest thing that I take from my time with him, that he transferred that into me and the group, and that made us stronger. We believe. If you believe, we believe. So my point is to be authentic, because I think once you are, as I say, working with players and staff, if you could try to be something you're not, people see through it very, very clearly. So I think he was very authentic. So I think I start sort of know my strengths and weaknesses a little bit, and I try and be as authentic as I can. And I try, as Jose did with me, is to transmit confidence into people. And that's like a daily thing. So those things I try and take on board.
Very good. Well, good luck for the season.
Brilliant.
Appreciate the time.
Thanks very much. Nice speaking to you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Cheers.